Seth, happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you, man. For most people, it's quitting time, but we're back on the grind here. We're getting the job done on a Friday afternoon at 5.
This is when we begin, right
Uh,
when the bell stops. We just keep going, man. Um, and you were just playing golf, it sounds like.
I was, as much as I was joking about the work day. I actually took today off. I had my dad in town, so um, yeah, it was not a productive day work wise, but it was a fun kind of relaxing day that I sort of needed. So yeah, all is well, and in a half hour we'll be joining the masses, I'm sure, with a beer or two.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Well, speaking of this episode, it's all about sports and music. Golf, not sure if there's a lot of music as you're actually playing golf, as
Although
opposed to
it's funny you say that. So a new trend I've observed on golf courses is, and I'd be curious to know people's thoughts on this. Any golfers out there who, when people bring like a portable speaker in their cart and they play music like while they're playing, and it's not necessarily loud, but they'll
yeah.
kind of be like they'll have stuff in the background, and it drives me bananas. Just because, like, for me, it's like a rare place when it's like I can just sort of chill, and I listen to so much music, but that's one where I'm like, guys, separate church and state a little bit here. But that seems to be an emerging trend where even golf has a soundtrack to it. So no surprise.
I can't believe that. To me, golf was the precursor to ASMR, this quiet video where you hear natural sounds and you hear it's a long putt on the back nine, and then you're asleep, right? You're
Yes.
hungover on that Saturday and Sunday.
Yes. I was gonna say golf is built so dads can take naps to it. That's the whole point of golf on TV. Yeah.
Well, what is your first memory of a sporting event or any sports activity where there's music?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and the one that stuck out in my head kind of vividly is being very young, going to Patriots games. Probably, for those who don't know, I probably do, but I'm from New England originally, so I'm not just a bandwagon Pats fan. But going
It's
before
okay,
Tom
man.
Brady, probably late 95, 96, going to games with my dad, and every game before kickoff, they would play and I think they still do this to this day. So you're talking 25 years of the song Machine Head by Bush. And it's sort of
Oh,
this like guitar
man.
riff that like they play it, play it, play it, and then they kick the ball off. But that is the thing where it's like I knew the game was about to start when that song came on, like we were ready to go. So that's kind of what I associate a specific song with a specific sporting event from my past. How about you?
Well, I'm going to go way back, and I don't know this technically is music as we define it and we kind of generally accept today, but since I was a kid, my parents took me to Dodger games, and so take me out to the ball game, which is music,
Very
but it's
original, Scott. Very original.
well, let me just say it's the first one. And but soon thereafter, the Dodgers would always play I Love LA, which came out in the 80s by Randy Newman.
Oh
And
yeah.
really now it's, analogous to the New York of the Yankees. But those were just the best memories. But that was the first time, at least there was a song and a sporting event that everyone was participating in, which
Yes.
and that's where, this song, Take Me Out of the Ball Game, was 1908, originally like a vaudeville song that kind of got adapted, was inspired by baseball, obviously, but then got adapted, decades later into just kind of general baseball, I would say vernacular, just culture.
Yes, I can almost hear like the jangly piano version of it in my head. You know what I mean? The old timey vaudeville sound of that. But
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. That's it does feel like a song sort of out of a different era, and it's kind of amazing that it's stuck for so long. You know that it's
Yeah.
it's so ingrained in baseball. But I'm pro. Take me out to the ball game. Let the record show.
Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah,
happens at every game. And
yeah,
so just like a lot of these songs that, I love LA, it's like, okay, they won and the Dodgers are winning a lot, thank God. So they play it every time. And you
yes,
think people would get sick of it, but it's a ritual and people
yes,
love it. And this is the part of, I think, this aspect of sports where sports meets music. But from an individual perspective, Seth, and you are, as a former athlete, can I say, you played college ball. Well, that makes you in a very rare select group of individuals.
yes.
this is
Rarefied air.
this is your
But
time to brag now.
yeah,
Now
yeah,
I set it up for you, buddy.
I appreciate it. Division 3 pitcher that barely played. So yes, technically I fit the definition, but it was a real stretch. So yeah,
Dude, I
uh,
didn't even make the intramural teams at college.
Yeah, that
So I
checks
mean,
out.
those are supposed to be like everyone plays, some type of communist theory, and this is like, no, dude, no, no, no.
Yeah, you're gonna ruin this for everybody. You can't play, Scott. Sorry.
Um, so as a motivator, you see so many of clips now of Tom Brady or LeBron walking through the locker room or walking out of the locker room, and they got their headphones on, listening to music.
Yeah, and actually that was one of the big when Beats headphones came out.
Yeah.
That, if you remember, that they were so distinctive with the giant cans, often very colorful, and a huge piece. I'm sure you remember watching this with me, Scott. That the documentary, The Defiant Ones.
Yeah.
That's about Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, who started Beats together, and their thing was like, just get them on people's heads and take pictures. And they were giving them to athletes. You'd see guys warming up before the game, and their whole marketing campaign was guys getting in the zone, totally like locked in with these headphones. And it's still maybe a little bit, but there was like 2 or 3 years where it was like a fashion statement to have Beats on and to have headphones and to be that part of your pregame preparation ritual. That's how you knew someone was like getting in the zone. So 100% music is tied to that.
Yeah. And I think it's, at the gym, I do go to the gym. I know it doesn't look like it, but
well, we only see you from the neck up. We don't see the 6-pack below the screen.
Yeah. You got to work on these double chins. It's not easy. It's actually another layer of muscle.
Yes.
It's kind of those that have Beats and those that have the AirPods, know, and it's funny now because even at the gyms, they don't play music loud now. I mean, back in the day, it was just blasting some cheesy techno or whatever, some cheap dance music that was easy to license. And now they're relatively quiet. And I just think it's because everyone's in that zone. But I don't see many people who are just working out with no music at all.
Yep. And it's the portability of music has become such that you can personalize your own sound. Because again, some people get pumped up by techno, some people need hard rock. And so for the gym to dictate like what everybody gets to hear, that's sort of a bygone era. Now it's just pick your vibe and create it. And so they just, get out of the way and let people do their own thing. But 100%, it's so physical activity, sport, all that stuff is so ingrained in music. One kind of goes hand in hand with the other that even amateur athletes are very much make it a part of what they do.
Such as I. Well, it does help. I mean, when you're doing a slow treadmill like me, but when and just in any type of, it gets the blood pumping, so to speak. Did you find out when you went over to pitch, were you listening to anything? Was there any mix?
Not really. I had a thing. This is a weird story, I guess, but I'd have a thing where if I was really locked in pitching, I would have like a line or a part from a song in my head that it was over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
And it would almost like went along with the repeatability of the pitching motion. You know what I mean? Of just like, I can't explain it, but it was like a rhythmic thing. So I've never been one of those people who like sit before the game and get like super pumped, like really intense music. For me, it's more like getting a repeatable method or something. And that usually was like literally a line from a song, which I think back is so weird, but you sort of jogged that memory for me. But yeah, that was how
you get in that. You want that auto memory. What is it? Your memory muscle, whatever.
Yeah, muscle memory. That's muscle memory with the same sound and the same motion and the same step and the same move. It's all intrinsically linked, and I think that's how people use music. I know people who are like runners, and they're like, my last mile, it's this song every time. I got to hear it. So I find that interesting.
Again, I'm going to reveal my nerd background, but I was in cross country. All right. Don't say anything.
I just want to see pictures of the shorts. That's all I want to know. I want to see the shorts.
And you do. I mean, this is obviously you need all the inspiration because you have no one out there. Parents don't even come to these events. There's just so boring, but you do have that song in your head as you're struggling to get through the third mile, so to speak.
Yeah.
What is it about also when we talked about in our last episode, musicians becoming actors becoming musicians. In this case, you have like take someone like Drake, who is always seen. He's a big Toronto fan and NBA and the Raptors, and he's always at the games. And he just seems to be kind of lurking around, wants to be associated with that. And I saw definitely an overlap, even more recently with hip hop and NBA and NFL.
Yeah, and I think it kind of ties into a little bit our actors and or actors and musicians thing in the last couple of weeks. Is it's like pro athletes want to be rappers or musicians, and
Yeah.
musicians want to be pro athletes. So there's also that piece where like they are people who are sort of in a certain stratosphere, so that it's hard to be aspirational when you're living the aspiration.
Yeah.
And it seems like for those guys, that's the crossover. So they like hanging out with each other because they aspire to be each other. And
Yeah.
then when you add the music, like Drake's a perfect example of like a lot of those athletes, like they love Drake's music. And so that is part of he's part of their routine already. And then it's actually him there. So you can see how there's that sort of like love being shown across the aisle for sure.
Well, definitely. I mean, back in the day, you had the Super Bowl shuffle with the 85 Chicago Bears, a disaster in terms of a actual legitimate song, but extremely entertaining.
But talk about calling your shot. They recorded that song like in the preseason and then went and won the Super Bowl that season. I mean, that is ballsy. Confidence. It's wild. Yeah.
Now, what about like Deion Sanders? I mean, there is some, like, as we saw with some musicians that became actors and vice versa. Some of it is somewhat laughable.
There's a couple, like I know, like who the heck is it? No, not Amari Stoudemire. One of the guys for the Blazers. There's a couple guys in the league who were like, they're like, that guy's a legit rapper. Like he's not. Yeah, I'll think of who it is. It's a guy for the Blazers who's like, Damian Lillard is who it is. Who's like, apparently they're like, that guy raps better than most professional rappers, and he's one of the best basketball players. So there is some talent out there, but by and large, Shaq. Oh, I will say, Shaq, platinum selling musician. He sold over 1 million copies of his album, his first album. I think it's called like Shaq Diesel. So I don't know that it was good, but at the very least, he's the man moved units. Yeah,
I tell you what, and this guy's got the triple threat because he was also in Shazam, that movie.
That's true. Actor, rapper, athlete. I mean, he truly does it all. And pitchman. If you need to buy some insurance, if you need some like cream for your back, the man will sell it to you.
You got me.
You got to be.
Yeah, shoe repair, everything. Now, in terms of the stadium, this is where I see the ultimate combination of how you get the crowd riled up. And you mentioned with the Pats with an entrance song, and I remember seeing it with Guns N' Roses with Welcome to the Jungle, which has, all of it's about that intro, right? It gets the, here we are, you're, New England Patriots. And I saw, for me, when I was living in Dallas, the Mavericks had Eminence Front, which is kind of a not obscure song by The Who, but it has this really long intro with this build up and crescendo that's perfect for the entrance. And I think, not a DJ, but someone's like, dude, I found this song, this is, and it's usually those long intros.
Same thing, the famous one with the Chicago Bulls when it's, Alan Parsons Project. The song is called, I think it's called Serious. But it's
Serious, that's it.
And that one, I mean, when you close your eyes and picture like the Michael Jordan Bulls, you can almost hear that song. So the way it's used, it's almost the same thing. I mean, you can probably relate to this, Scott. Like, as a DJ in a club, you are in charge of cultivating the mood and the vibe of everybody there. You can speed it up, you can bring it down. If people, you can kind of read the crowd. Same thing in a sports arena. Do you want to bring people up? Do you want to keep people busy? Do you want to quiet them down? Like, you can shift. Music has such a direct effect on mood that you're doing the same thing in a stadium that you'd be doing in a club. So you got to have someone who knows what they're doing on the buttons. I know, like, who are there's at least one team. I know the guy in Atlanta, they've got like an incredible, organ player who he plays all these
like
hip hop
church
songs
organ.
Which is so Atlanta and really cool. But but you got to have a guy you trust at the wheel, because you can really kind of hold the crowd in the palm of your hand, and in a tense game, sometimes that's what you need.
Well, no, I think this it is an art, just like when you're DJing and you're, especially when you're in between a set and a new DJ comes on, you want to provide like a clean slate, and so you want to kind of start from the beginning and take them up. And I was impressed, especially with Dallas, like Eminence Front. Like, I was like, oh, that's a great friggin' intro, and you can just hear it. It's almost like they created it for some type of sporting event. like Welcome to the Jungle, similar thing with the just that kind of erratic guitar at the beginning, and then usually that crescendo, and then welcome your Milwaukee Brewers. Something
Yes,
like
you're
that.
building. You're bringing up, and it's. I almost feel I can see. They do like the decibel meter on
Yeah,
the scoreboard. You bring
exactly.
people up, 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 and then boom, the team comes out. So it's like so you're shaping the crowd to get ready for the game or to bring them down, or whatever. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and now with NFL especially and all the commercial breaks and whatnot, they're slipping in songs, and especially with personalities. When someone's coming up, maybe he's from Cuba or Venezuela, they'll put like a reggaeton on. Sometimes they'll try to match the music with the actual athlete.
I can't tell you how many cut-ins to Red Sox games I've seen with like More Than a Feeling, like just the laziest.
Yeah,
Like, what's a Boston man? Oh, the band called Boston. Let's use
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah,
But I do remember one time, which I thought was an interesting quote or thought or whatever from Paul McCartney a long time ago. I think from the Beatles anthology interviews, but like from 1995. But he was saying, people were like Beatlemania and these girls just screaming and singing along and like being really like locked in and kind of like getting all this energy out. And people like, we don't understand it. It's like not even
yeah,
human. It's what's causing this reaction. And he's like, I just thought back to going to soccer games with my dad and when I was younger,
yeah,
and all of the men in the crowd that, the very masculine sort of cheering
yeah.
together and doing these cheers. And he's like, this is to me was just the female equivalent of that. And I never put that together, but it's actually a really interesting observation.
And especially going into, we were talking a lot about obviously the United States, but you go over to Europe and the Premier League in Great Britain, and they are fanatics about some of these songs and crazy ones. For example, they'll sing "Sweet Caroline" by Neil Diamond. Um, and I think it's Aston Villa.
Yep.
They'll sing Seven Nations Army by White Stripes.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
just goes,
Seven Nation Army is like Aston Villa does it, but that is one I think it was weirdly like a Turkish league team that started using
yeah,
it, but it is like the
yeah,
sports song for all of Europe. Like every
oh yeah,
stadium is playing it constantly. And it's a great one, and that's come through the US, but it didn't necessarily have that kind of legs in the US in
no,
sports. It started, the epicenter of that was European soccer,
yeah,
and now it's everywhere. But
yeah.
yeah, totally.
And
Totally.
it was just amazing, like what songs they'll pick and at what times.
Yep.
So, for example, they'll play, sing Neil Diamond, which is kind of you think about it's not like hooligans, but kind of thugged out British dudes, super hammered and whatnot, singing "Sweet Caroline." It's
Yes.
just it was just fascinating. When I lived in Europe, I went to these matches and I was like, my God, I never thought, or Neil Diamond would have ever thought his song would be in this kind of
Yes, and you
thugged
got like
out.
Liverpool doing "You'll Never Walk Alone," which is like almost this like '60s, like, is it? I don't remember. It's Jerry and the Pacemakers or something like
Yeah,
that. But yeah, it's totally weird what songs resonate, and then they're also like creating their own lyrics to
yeah,
songs. They do a lot of like rewrites with the players' names or whatever. I remember they used to do one for Gary Neville, and it
yeah.
was, instead of "Rebel Rebel" by
David Bowie.
by Bowie, it was Neville Neville. So you hear stuff like that. Yeah. And the
Yeah, and
last line, which is true, is, I forget what the words were, but the last line was, Neville Neville is the name of your dad, because Gary Neville's dad was actually named Neville Neville. So yeah. Yeah.
I thought some of the other like greatest, I'd say, stadium hits, uh, Rock and Roll Part Two, right? I
Yeah.
didn't know
We've
there was a
sort of,
Part One by Gary Glitter.
yep. As I'm sure you know, that one's been taken off many playlists because Gary Glitter is a mass, not even like an alleged creep, like
Yeah,
a convicted like child pornography guy. So
yeah,
you hear Rock and Roll Part Two a lot less these days, I've observed.
dude. And for everyone out there, I said, do you want to sing this? I don't even know how to a lyric.
Da, na, na, na,
Uh,
na. Right, you know it if
it goes.
if you don't even need to know, you know it. It's,
I'll,
you
I'll
know it.
I'll do it. It goes. It goes. Dun-na, 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 na, dun-na. Hey,
The hey
rock
is the
and
part. Yeah,
roll.
yeah. Yes. And you
He
don't
just
even really
repeats
hear the
that
rock
line.
and roll part. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the
That-
goofiest song, but again, I think we sort of retired that one as a stadium jam. I think Jump by Van Halen is another one you hear like a
oh gosh,
lot. I feel like Moni Moni used to be a really popular one,
dude.
more in the 90s, but you don't
That
hear it as
was a
much.
90s, along with the one that I just couldn't stand. And this is where I felt like an elitist, or I felt like I just was not part of the unwashed masses, was Who Let the Dogs Out by the Baha Men.
Oh, that's a rough one. That's a
And
rough one. That's really come up on this show a couple times. I think it
oh,
came
it
up on our
is.
like
It is. I'm obsessed
feminism
with it.
anthem
Funny
or
enough,
whatever.
I hate it, but I'm obsessed with it. The
Yeah.
other one, and this is fascinating, is I think it's White Cherry. It's Play That Funky Music, White Boy.
Yep.
And
Yep. Yep.
the lead singer basically they're a one-hit wonder in all its glory. And he's like, dude, I make so much money off of every stadium that I never have to work again. And my kids don't
Amazing.
have to work again.
Yeah. You write one song. I
One song.
Yeah. Remember the episode? It reminds me. Remember we did the Christmas one, and we were talking about like, I forget what band. Maybe it was the Kinks that like whatever the song was, and they're like, yeah, that like pays for our vacation house every like we make X amount. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's
An
amazing.
annuity. Yeah.
And just the state, what it's like everyone has what it just like they just forget. Like, dude, you heard that last week, and they get just as excited.
Yeah.
It's like at one of those clubs where they play the same song every week, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, this is I Will Survive. Let's get into it."
Yes. It's like the signal but I think it's an association. It's like Pavlovian. It's like, oh, this song's on, like it's time to go. Like it's tied so intrinsically to the thing that they love the song too.
Now, which one do you think? I mean, we talked a little bit about location, as I mentioned. Yankees have New York, New York. LA has I Love LA. You have the jump around right here in the Midwest. In Wisconsin, you have the jump around fourth quarter by House of Pain, which is okay. I'm going to say that one's pretty cool. And then select ones here and there that I don't. What other ones am I missing, Seth? That
Well, it's funny enough. They have, I think it's Wisconsin too. They do that, the jump around the fourth quarter, but then I think in the third quarter they do the song Sandstorm. Like
okay.
and that like that's another one that like build, explode. So that's a really fun one too.
That is but some of them with like the Mets, they'll do some like old Italian American songs. Back in the New York Groove by Ace Frehley of Kiss.
Oh, that's a banger.
That is just, and everyone's singing it every time. And there's something just like Take Me Out to the Ball. There's something reassuring, when you go there, you're like, oh yeah, here we go again.
Totally.
You find yourself singing it and downloading it on the way home.
And there's a lot of goofy ones. Like you have it on our list here, but like the big one here in Chicago is "Go Cubs Go," which they play, which is like I think it's from the early '80s, and it's like this. It's totally a novelty song. It's like a goofy. There's clapping to it. It's silly. It's the best way. It's like a kid's song, but they play it every time they win. So again, like we said, trigger something in your brain. It'll come on in a bar. People are singing along to it. It's there's nothing objectively good about it. No. But because it's associated with the Cubs winning games, people love it. And so I think that's like another tradition.
That is the white man's revenge song, dude, because it is the corniest. I mean, listen, hey, you're not from Chicago. We love Chicago, right? But I gotta tell you this, it's just not cool to be a Cubs fan. I'm sorry. I'm just going to tell you right now, like the song is just so corny that I just can't imagine like a really cool dude singing that. Like, oh man, we fucking Cubs won.
I've somehow never gone and looked up the guy who plays it, but I should have just that sense of it.
Funny enough, the guy is super legit. Steve Goodman, who wrote City of New Orleans, which was covered by Arlo Guthrie. He wrote You Never Call Me by Name, which very, very famous country star sang. So he's really come up with some really cool songs.
Interesting. Did not know that.
Steve Goodman. He's like this guy, but then he made this horrific song that we have to live with. And the funny thing, Seth, he's got a very good song because he's a Chicago guy called like Dying Wish of a Cubs Fan. And it's a really funny song about being like a Cubs fan and how they never win. So yeah, that's Chicago. And again, we're not hating, but I got to be honest, like they could get a new song.
Yeah, it may, but I don't think that it'll ever be. Again, it's ironically cool now, and so I don't think it's going anywhere. But yeah, apologies to you, Steve Goodman, apparently songwriter extraordinaire.
There's one artist they're not going to play, and you know it's Seth. I want to make you say it.
I'm thinking
Chicago local, lives not too far away from me, up on Madison, high up, maybe 80th floor, small window. Can't see out.
Robert Kelly. Is that who we're talking about? Yes,
I
Robert.
believe
Unfortunately,
Space Jam. All right, there's another intersection of
I believe I can fly. Yeah, he's in the Gary Glitter, retired former greats songs at sports
just you
games.
just don't hear that song anymore.
I know. I know. I know. Someone asked that recently. They were like, "Can we do what song are we talking about? Maybe Ignition Remix." They're like, "Can we do this at karaoke?" I was like, "I don't think so. I think
No,
we got to
man.
kind of just
We
shelve these." But
we
yeah, your
we talked
mileage
about
may vary on that.
you can do a Michael Jackson song, but not an R. Kelly song.
True. Nothing. Yeah, nothing was there. There was no convictions in Michael Jackson, so you're good with that.
Some other regional place, San Francisco, home of Journey, the band Journey. Don't Stop Believing, which the Chicago White Sox did. It was kind of their adopted song, I think 2008 or something when they won the series. So definitely like they pick and choose which ones. But then there's some songs that are legitimate sports songs. John Fogerty, the whole album Centerfield.
Oh yeah.
It's brilliant. To me, that is one of the best sports songs. That's not cheesy. It's not trite. It's actually just a beautiful song about an American pastime, almost cultural.
Yeah, you can almost like smell the field or something. You know what I mean? It's one of those songs that like has such an association with like the summer and being at a baseball game, almost like a minor league baseball game in my head. There's a handful like those. I remember talking once to my friend about the Frank Sinatra song Summer Wind, which really isn't a sports song per se, but it gets played a lot of baseball stadiums. And our theory is because the intro and the outro is basically kind of like an organ, and so it kind of sounds like a baseball organ. And it's Summer Wind, you can picture yourself at the game. So what is not typically like a pump up song, more of like an ambiance song, goes really well with baseball specifically.
I think that those are just like when I heard that by John Fogerty when it came out, I think in the 80s or when he went solo, and it's at every ball game. The the clap.
Even if they don't play the song, I think the clap came first. It's like go team go, whatever. And he like just rolled it into the song. You know what I mean? He made it to really give you the authentic feeling. Stuck it right there at the beginning of the song. You know what you're signing up for before he sings a note.
And I thought that was, to me, the best song that combines like American culture, which is our pastime baseball, with just beautiful music. That wasn't cheesy. So again, going back to the Go Cubs Go, dude, I hated singing that, and I had to sing it when they won the series.
It's bad.
You were there. We were there.
I was there, baby. I was working the door at the bar the night they won. I was the only sober guy in Chicago.
Oh, what a night. So in terms of, Seth, let me just say as we close here, what song would you like to have played that has not been played?
I don't know. Like sometimes you'll hear, I'm trying to, again, you always give me these questions that are good questions, but I'm like, I wish I had been pre-warned.
But that's the whole joy of it. Just to see you just struggle here.
I'll think of this. Like I remember there used to be, and he's not a good, like not good, but there's a rapper named Bubba Sparks. He was a guy from, I think he's from Georgia actually, because I think he's a big UGA fan. But he had this song, and I'm even blanking on the name, but it just had this really cool like guitar intro. It was like dun 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 dun, and you hear like little clips. It's not a full song, but it's like, give me that 10 seconds, and that's gonna be like, I'm coming into the game. I always think about it like entrance music in baseball. You've got whether it's a closer coming out of the bullpen. Obviously, Mariano Rivera famously had Enter Sandman. Guys have walk-up songs to the plate, which is usually a much smaller clip.
That's right.
But you have this like, it's like, give me 5 seconds, and it's actually a good corollary.
Okay,
wrestling, because that is something where
we're talking about real wrestling or WWF?
WWE, professional wrestling. But think of how much of the mood is set in like a guy's personality is like just his intro song. I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the glass smashes, and then he comes out. It's like, boom! It like pop. They call it pops the crowd.
Totally,
and they've just become
the Undertaker
total pros at that. Yeah, and do you know who was the first one to ever have wrestling intro music, or one of them using a real song as their wrestling intro music?
Hulk Hogan? No.
No, he was a big one. He had Real American, which was his
Oh
own
yeah.
song. Then later, he got WCW to back up a Brinks truck and use Jimi Hendrix Voodoo Child, which is like so expensive to do, but he like demanded it. But the first one was Junkyard Dog, who was a Southern wrestler, and he used to come out to Another One Bites the Dust. So the bass line, that's kind of perfect actually. But yeah, to me that's like a great example of, okay, the music can set the mood for the person in an instant. So
Okay.
what would be your intro song, Scott? You're coming in to close a game.
My intro song. Well, okay, let me tell you the one I would not. Let me just start off with that. The one, and we haven't talked about, this is the elephant in the room, is We Will Rock You by Queen.
Oh yeah. Like, we hadn't touched that.
Like, I'm over that one.
I mean, that's one where you don't even need the song. You just need the boom, boom.
That's it.
And people in stadiums use that, like, just people know, and the song doesn't even need to kick in. It's built to be a chant, basically. It's a chant more than a song, right?
The one I wanted to see when the Dallas Cowboys in the 90s with what was his, Mike, not Singleton, not Mike, who was the
Michael Irvin.
Michael
probably
was by Eric Clapton, Cocaine.
I was gonna say maybe Let It Snow. One of those.
Just to hear that Eric Clapton guitar come in, just to see okay. So I got to tell you, I actually recently did one. I was down in Dallas for a big my good friend's birthday party, and we had these ninja events, right? And so I was up on, and it was my turn, and my buddy looked at me. He's like, "What's your song?" And dude, literally, like, he had his iPad right there, and I went, and I had literally a split second before the timer went off, and I said, "You're the Best" by Joe Pizzito, which was from Karate Kid.
Yes, great choice, very fitting. Also, I like how you just I like how you so casually brushed over. I was at a ninja event. Like people are supposed to know what the fuck you're talking about,
dude.
It's kind of, from what you explained to me earlier, it's pretty much that's pretty much what it was, an event where you do ninja stuff.
Yeah, that's what it was.
I was at as if you were at a bar. I was at this ninja event. I was like, okay, go on.
And and so I put it on, and everyone was stoked because it brought back flashbacks of Karate Kid. Right. Yep. This is people my age in their 40s, and and they were like, "Oh, we know this," and they're thinking Johnny Lawrence, Danny LaRusso, and it's that whole montage. So that was. But if I had to do, okay, let me go. If I had to do an intro song, oh man, I would. I mean, I like it, but it's been done. But Iron Man by Black Sabbath,
good one though. Just again, it almost like, it's like ominous, right? It's like people are going to be scared of you as you come out.
Yeah, that's it. It has that droning, almost like sludgy guitar, and I was like, that's badass. It's obviously someone took it now, and now Ozzy's actually did the Rams game. I don't know if you remember on the first line. Yeah. And just to tell you that he's so old, they had a bar behind him so he could lean back on it. So he wasn't standing. He's like leaning.
It almost it almost bums me out a little bit.
Dude, Ozzy.
Hey, he's still going. That's all that matters.
It's equivalent of like a dude with a cane, and the song was 7 minutes, and they gave him like 15 seconds of airtime, and then they went to an analyst. So you just kind of were like, okay, but
keep it short and sweet with Ozzy. Yeah.
Well, so then what would be our outro song here, Seth, if we had to wrap it up?
You keep doing this to me. I don't know. I don't know. Good. Happy Trails. That's a good one. Like, send us off on a high note.
Happy Trails would be freaking brilliant. I'm thinking another one. It could be And in the End.
Oh yeah. Just use the last little bit of
one of the best Abbey Road, the end. I mean, that, and I'll try to put that in the clip, although the Beatles copyright team just will neg that instantly.
Yes, well, they do ninja events, so they can practice to swoop in and nail you.
That's right. Well, listen, hey everyone, hey, thanks so much. Seth and I have just had a blast doing this. Again, if you like our podcast, like the video cast, tell your friends about it. We're getting more subscribers on YouTube as well as Spotify, and we just appreciate all the feedback. Seth, any sports activities tonight? Nothing.
I think I'm gonna hit actually 2 separate concerts, a cover band and then another band later in the night. So it's gonna be a music heavy night. I've done my athletics for the day, and so now on to music and beer.
On to the outro. Just imagine everyone, Seth leaving his apartment to the Beatles' Abbey Road.
Yes.
and then
Yes.
I'll be Iron Man.
Beautiful.
Everyone,
All right. Happy
have a good.
trails.
See you guys. Have a good
All right.
weekend.
Bye.
See ya.